Hacker, Vice President, Legal Services, and a senior counsel at First Liberty, where they pro bono take cases to fight for your faith and your entitlement to it. Good morning, David.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I just hate how busy you guys are. This shouldn't have to be this way.
Yeah, well, we literally have cases from coast to coast, Hawaii to Maine and Seattle to Florida. So we've got a lot going on.
That's because people are stupid and don't understand freedom of religion, not from it. So it's like everybody wants to pitch a fit about something that isn't fit-worthy, and then we have to go to the circuit court. The Ninth Circuit is probably not the best place for you to be, is it?
You know, it's better than it was in previous years. President Trump, in his first term, he appointed a lot of great judges to that court. So it's almost half and half now, if you look at it. But it's still up in the air. So
quit going with Barnum and Bailey then. All right, so what we're talking about today are these flight attendants. We've mentioned them before. They were fired for their faith. Can you tell the story, please, if you wouldn't mind, David?
Yeah, so these two flight attendants worked for Alaska Airlines. The airline decided, because it's pretty woke, to post on its internal message board for employees, hey, we at Alaska Airlines, we support this thing called the Federal Equality Act. Now, the Equality Act would erase a lot of protections for religious freedom in our country and a lot of other protections. And so these two women, it said in the chat, post your questions, post your comments. Alaska did this normally, and employees would comment all the time. It was fine. It was normal. So these two ladies, they posted a question, do you think it's okay to regulate morality? And the other one asked, hey, how's this going to affect women, and how's this going to affect religious people in the workplace? And they were immediately removed from their flight duty. They were investigated and quickly fired by the airline.
For what?
For asking a question.
Wow.
And the thing is, they were just asking an honest question based on their religious beliefs. Hey, how can you support this Equality Act, Alaska Airlines, and how can you explain your support for it when you also have a duty under federal law to protect women and men in the workplace and people of faith in the workplace?
Well, maybe the company should define equality then, because sounds to me like it's not all that equal.
That's right. It's completely unequal, especially if you're a Christian believer or someone that has a traditional religious view about, male and females and how they were, created by God, to be male and female, and that's it. At Alaska Airlines, that's not welcome if you have those religious beliefs. They told these ladies, you got to keep that to yourself.
Wonder how they did in biology class. Just a thought. Okay, so, You can't get in and out of Alaska and get to any parts of Alaska unless you're on an airplane. So these women are in a particularly necessary line of work as well.
Yeah, that's right. And, they actually flew, all over the country with the airline. So it's and here's the thing. They got these great reviews. They were constantly getting praise from both customers of the airline and their coworkers and their managers. But yet, when they ask a simple question about why the airline supports this radical change in law that would erase religious freedom across the country, then they're out.
I'm flabbergasted. I mean, I'm pretty sure it took them a while to pick their job off the floor, thinking, what just happened here?
Yeah, that's totally true. And, but the thing is that both of these ladies, had the courage to stand up and say, hey, this isn't right. And, I'm sure that there are a lot of people of faith across the country who experience this kind of stuff every day, and they don't know that they can stand up. They can call somebody like me or my colleagues at First Liberty, and we can help them if they've been discriminated against based on their religion in the workplace.
Well, if ever you had a cut and dried case, it's probably this one, David.
I certainly think so, and we hope that the Ninth Circuit that heard the argument last week will agree with us. It'll be a couple months until we find out, but we at least feel like we're entitled to take this case to a jury and allow a jury of the peers of these ladies decide whether or not Alaska Airlines, should be held liable for what it did.
Absolutely. I mean, if I were a juror had this gone to a jury trial, I'd be like, I can't believe you fired him in the first place. Since when are we not allowed to be inquisitive and wonder about our own moral beliefs? If I worked somewhere and they told me I couldn't have my moral beliefs, I couldn't in good standing want to work for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the other thing that was just really shocking in this case is that the airline and the employees, what they said about Lacey and Marley, the two flight attendants, behind the scenes was just horrible and so hostile and terrible towards people of faith. Asking them to be terminated immediately from their jobs. They even said put one of them in a body bag and drop them in a lake. I mean, crazy stuff that the law does not allow employers to do. So we're just asking for justice for Marley and Lacey, and we hope that the Ninth Circuit will give it to us.
Yeah, sounds a little genocidal up in there. What the heck? All right, so you can't regulate morality. You can't, because each person has their own definition of what that is. So there's no way to put a parentheses around it. A lot of people with the shooting that happened in Minnesota, they're like, you can't regulate morality. That person was probably on this or on that. I'm like, you know what? When it comes to morality and little kids and you kill them, there's only one answer to that question. And it was immoral, and that person is now frying in hell where they belong because of what they've done. Mental illness does not forgive your sin. Now, these women did nothing wrong but ask questions on a platform, on a forum where they thought it was safe to ask questions, right?
Yeah, that's right. Employees have asked questions and make comments all the time about different things the airline would post about on their kind of water cooler, if you will.
Okay. And so did they do this in the same conversation or at a different time?
The airline posted their support for this Equality Act on the message board, and then each of the ladies independently posted, their questions. One at a certain time, and then one a couple, I don't remember how long afterwards, but they both kind of did this independently. They didn't even know each other. Mm-hmm. They worked at a different, airport locations. So, but the fact that they were brave enough to even ask a question, I think, is a testament to their courage in the workplace and their willingness to, stand up for their faith.
So in answer to that, they said defining gender identity or sexual orientation as a moral issue is a discriminatory statement. In what way? In what way? So on your birth certificate, when the hospital's signing boy or girl because they have to, that's your assignment at birth, they have to, are they discriminating against every baby born?
That's a good question. And apparently, if you have a religious belief that people are born male and female, you're discriminatory. And you're not welcome in workplaces like those that Alaska Airlines runs. And unfortunately, as you know, a lot of corporate America has gone this direction. And so, we're just seeing more and more cases where people of faith are being shut out of the regular workplace where you and I would have jobs, simply because they stand up and say, hey, I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm a good employee, but I don't agree with this socially woke thing that this company is doing.
I think everybody should be allowed to work at a place if they have a good job history, whether they believe in something or not, as long as they get along with everybody.
That's absolutely true. And, Lacey and Marley, like I said earlier, they had great reviews.
Yeah. This doesn't make any sense, not even a filament of sense to me.
It's an unfortunate circumstance, and like I said, it's happening kind of all over the country with these major corporations. They kind of think they can throw their weight around and tell people what to believe in their own mind, and that's simply not the law.
Oh, I'm so glad I don't work there. Or, well, you wouldn't catch me in Alaska anyway. But they have more bears than brains up there, it sounds like. I want to know if these ladies want their jobs back or if they just want compensation. What do they want to happen?
It's hard to say because, one of them still works in the airline industry, was able to get another job because she was good at her job. The other one is kind of, reevaluating things. And, we'll see in the end what the jury, hopefully, if we get back to a jury, ultimately awards them. But, the important thing here is that our case was heard by an appellate court, a pretty powerful appellate court, and if we're able to get a good decision, which we hope we will, that will resonate throughout the country, and that'll send a message to other corporations that you can't treat people of faith like this in the workplace. You have to treat them equally. You have to respect their beliefs and their practices, and the law requires you to do that, and if you don't, you're going to be held accountable.
So, David, what if you don't get the decision you want? What then?
Both these women, like I said, have so much courage. I expect that they would want to keep fighting. And, the next step would be to either ask the entire Ninth Circuit to hear the case or to go to the Supreme Court. And as you know, with First Liberty, we are willing to go the distance for our clients. We've won multiple cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, and we've got a great track record there.
Well, this one would be a slam dunk at the Supreme Court. I mean, all you'd have to do is hand them a piece of paper and have the ladies tell their story, and it would be like, okay, this one's easy. I mean, it's so simple. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard somebody be fired for in my life.
Yeah, it is a shocking case, and, we have other cases like this. We just won a case at the Sixth Circuit on behalf of a physician assistant who didn't want to prescribe, gender-modifying drugs to minors, and she was fired by the University of Michigan Health System, but we were able to win that case earlier this week in the Sixth Circuit, which is up there in Michigan.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
We are just, what happened in Minnesota, I think, is a perfectly good example of what happens when you start messing with drugs and kids when they're far too young. David Hacker, Vice President, I don't know that for sure. For all of you are crapping your pants right now, but that's my opinion of what might have gone cuckoo in this kid's head. All right, David Hacker is Vice President of Legal Services and Senior Counsel with First Liberty. Flight attendants fired for their faith by posting on a chat board at work. Crazy. It's in the Ninth Circuit now. Will it go Supreme Court? I hope not, but if so, I'm sure David would be happy to chat to the justices. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Bye.
You too.